This is Lewis Hartford Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. I'm delighted to be joined with the man who had the fishing rod out today, Mr. Dev Sani. How are we, mate?
I'm all right. And there weren't really any successful catches. Yeah, the lights off. You gonna? Oh, here we go. Here we now. This is Boxing Social.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're up in the world now. Full-time member of staff, Lewis, by the way. Congrats.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
I like watching your rise. Fishing rod didn't work. I tried a little bit. There was tension, I would say, between Heaney and Flatley. There's certainly tension with Andrew Kane and Baluta. But yeah, we'll see. It's a great show on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it.
That guy's intensity is, crazy. And I saw, I think you put it on your Instagram. He was talking about, being from Liverpool and stuff like that. And I was like, mate, this guy is he's on a different level.
He's, there's something so, it's like, you kind of hang on every word that he says. You're like, what is he going to say now? And I just feel like, as we get to know him, he's only 10-0 now. There's going to be so many stories about him, about like what he's been through to get to where he is. And he always says he's fighting for his life. This person's not going to take my life away from me. He's one of my favourite fighters. I know he hasn't had that many fights. He hasn't had that much exposure yet, mainly because he keeps knocking people out in the first round, so you don't really get to see him. But this could be, if it goes his way, the breakout fight, especially if he does what he says he can do. He says he's capable of knocking out Yonut Baluta in a round. Baluta has been in with and beaten David Oliver Joyce, beaten TJ Doheny. He's beaten good fighters, Brad Foster. He's never been knocked out. He's been in there with Mick Conlan and plenty of good fighters like that. Liam Davis. Andrew Kane saying he could knock him out in a round, and I can't wait to find out.
We've also got Jason Cunningham on this card as well. I was saying to Jason, the super bantams and the bantams at Queensbury, they've got it on lock. They've got so many good boxers from Liam Davies, Jason Cunningham, Andrew Kane, Dennis McCann, all them types of guys. Even weight above that, Nick Ball. They've got so many great fighters, and Frank, I feel like he holds all the pieces in that, especially domestically in that sort of small circuit.
I think so. I think we're home of the little men, and here I am. But also home of the big men, because look at Tyson Fury, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, David Adelaide, Moses Italma. So I think we've got a bit for everyone. But that super bantamweight division, yeah. Chris Bourke's in there as well, and Brad Foster. It's thriving, and everyone seems to be kind of over here. Mainly, there's good fighters elsewhere as well, but I love it, and it's good to have Jason Cunningham back in the mix. Been through a lot, obviously, had a lot of momentum heading into his last fight with Zlani Tete, and now he's got to rebuild. And there was obviously a cloud around that fight. Let's see how he's dealt with that. Let's see how he is mentally. Does he count it as a loss? I don't know. There's no doubt that he's never been dealt with like that before. Let's see. It's good to have him back in the mix. And there's talk of the Liam Davis fight after this, which is a cracker.
Absolutely, I did see that on BoxRec, so I was like, I don't think I've seen any confirmation for that. But another guy on the card, you just said Moses Italma, but a Medway lad, a great fighter in the amateurs. How important is it now that he keeps getting that push further forward every step he takes?
Absolutely. I mean, with Moses Italma, what I'd say is get photos with him now. While he's fighting sort of, lower down the card in Telford, do it while you can, because in 5 years' time, you'll be able to say, this is me with the heavyweight champion in the world, Moses Italma. He's going all the way to the top. He's got all the skills, all the attributes. I guess it's just about pacing it. And he's 18 years old, and he's got very good people around him. He's got a great promoter in Frank, obviously, a great manager in Francis, obviously, and the family around him. He's got Carol, obviously, and I think he can go all the way. It's just about pacing it, and hopefully we just get to see a little bit more of him on Saturday night. We literally saw like 23 seconds, including the count the first time. Moses was screaming at the guy, get up, because he wanted more of a workout. So I'm hopeful that we get more Moses Italma on Saturday.
Do you feel like, obviously Carol was here as well, one thing I feel like it must have been difficult for him though, like when your brother comes up short just before, like how can you even like mentally prepare yourself to go out to fight? I don't know how I could do it.
I know, it's like, it was the ideal debut? It ended with him knocking out a guy in the first round. I guess that sounds ideal, right? But his brother lost on the same night. They won't have been thinking that was going to happen. So yeah, look, it must have been difficult, but on Carol, he's got, as I said, the right people around him to come back. And most fighters lose. At some point, most fighters lose. And there's very few fighters that end their career unbeaten. He will learn a lot from that. And I'm looking forward to the get back of Karol Utama. I had a chat with him earlier. He knows what went wrong in the first fight in his camp, and he will rectify it. And I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, definitely, I agree on that. Moving on from one heavyweight to another heavyweight, we had the unfortunate news yesterday of, we have to get onto the topic. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, reportedly Alex Krasuk came out yesterday and saying it's definitely off. No matter what you think about the fight and you think about negotiations, we all have to admit when fights like this come apart, it's not good for boxing. Would you say?
It was just very, very frustrating news, horrible news. When I got wind of it, I was very, very disappointed. I'm still hopeful. Call me an idiot, but I'm ever the optimist. My fingers are still crossed. You never know. You've got good people around it who could potentially bring it back, but I don't know. From everything I'm hearing, it's not great, and I was looking forward to it. I was getting to work on promos and stuff. I'd written a script and everything. It just would have been amazing to work on. I'm hopeful it can still happen, and we'll see. It was disappointing.
Can you sort of understand, though, from a public perspective, me and you are both boxing fans, but can you understand from, outside this sort of circuit, why people are angry, though, why people are frustrated with, all the Instagram videos, everything to build up, the back and forth, it's not been ideal, we know the negotiations haven't been ideal. Can you sort of understand this frustration from a public perception?
Absolutely, because the public don't care about any of these Instagram videos and the back and forth. They do to some extent. They will, they'll lap it up. But they need the fight at the end of it, so I completely understand that. There's nothing worse than that, and I think everyone thought it was going to happen. Everyone thought it was done. It's not like there's no date, there's no venue and things like that where that's happened in the past, where there's been no date and venue booked, there's no agreement on the split and things like that. It felt like we were there, so that makes it all the more disappointing. But hopefully it can be revived. I completely understand the disappointment because I share it.
I was going to ask you about the split. What in your opinion, what do you feel would be more fair in a second fight? With Fury having 70-30 in the first fight, would 70-30 to Usyk be fair in a rematch if Usyk would won, or 50-50?
So it depends where it is. If the rematch is in the UK, there's not a world where Tyson Fury can take less of the pot against any fighter. Not a world where that can happen. So, first fight, 70-30, Tyson's got Usyk to agree to that. If Usyk wins the first fight and the rematch is in the UK, 50-50 is about right. And the reason I say that is it's not necessarily about how good you are as a boxer and how many belts you've got. It kind of just comes down to how famous you are and what value you bring to the overall pot. If Usyk fights someone not called Tyson Fury, how much is the fight worth? Not called Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua in the UK. How much is that fight worth? Significantly less. So, because of what Tyson Fury brings to the pot, you can't ever give him less than 50% in his home country in a rematch. Give Usyk 20 belts. It doesn't matter.
I was going to say that, though, because the way you got to look at it is if Usyk does win, he would then be the undisputed champion, and I get it from a point where you can say 50-50, but also would Usyk also be the A side of that fight? Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult one. It's sort of a difficult one because Fury has the name, but even if Usyk won, he'd have no belts, whereas surely the guy with the belts would have the leverage.
That's like in boxing talk, sure. In commercial talk, not necessarily. And again, it's because of the star power of Tyson Fury. Usyk's a star as well, and against most other champions, everything you've said would be correct, and he'd have the lion's share heading into a rematch. But against Tyson Fury in the UK, it's just not possible. There's not a fighter out there that can get more than 50% against Tyson Fury in the UK, even if he holds a win over him. Just can't happen.
Do you feel like Fury's legacy could potentially be tainted a little bit if he doesn't end up fighting Usyk or AJ?
I don't know. I think he's in a good place at the moment. I think he will want those fights. I think the public will demand them. Not necessarily the Joshua fight. I think the Joshua fight, because of how his career has transpired and he's taken a few losses, I don't think that's essential. That's a fight that we'd all love to see, but I don't think it's essential to the legacy. I think the Usyk fight is more important than the Joshua fight. And I think we will see it. I think Usyk and maybe Joe Joyce as well, because for me they are the questions out there to Tyson Fury right now. I think Tyson would start as a heavy favourite against Anthony Joshua, and I think he'd start as less of a favourite against Usyk and less of a favourite against Joe Joyce, and they are the questions that the fans will want answered.
So let's talk a little bit about Joe Joyce. In Vegas, an interview interrupted by Zhilei Zhang. That was a bit. He didn't really understand what he said, but it was quite funny to see.
It was great. It's like Zhang comes up, "Hey Joe," and Joe goes, "I don't know what you just said, but let's go." Joe Joyce is always part of some of the most awkward but hilarious exchanges you'll ever see in boxing. The press conferences with him and Joe Parker, generally with me sat in the middle trying to get something out of them, amazing. Some of the most amazing, oh yeah, you're odd. Yeah. And he'll just sort of leave it. And then, I'm really looking forward to the press conference with Zhilei Zhang as well. I know it's all going to be done via translation, but I think it could be hilariously awkward.
I'll be honest, when he fought Parker, and was it the launch presser where you had Frank, Joe, and you had Joe and Ben Shalom, and everyone was just taking jabs at each other. It was quality for you to be in the middle of that.
It was great fun. It's been one of my most favourite press conferences so far. But the fight itself, by the way, Joyce Zhang, currently, because Tyson Fury and Usyk isn't scheduled, currently that is the best heavyweight fight scheduled in the world. That's a great fight. You've got 2 Olympic silver medalists, and you've got one of the hardest hitting heavyweights out there in Zhilei Zhang. He put Hrgovic down. He bangs. Watch some of his knockouts. He really bangs. And then you've got the best chin in boxing in Joe Joyce. So I actually think it's quite a dangerous fight for Joe Joyce. Let's not forget the fella's a southpaw as well. So it's not going to be an easy night for Joe Joyce. He could make it easy. He gets through the first sort of 4 or 5 rounds, and then he could just juggernaut him. But I think there's real danger for Joe Joyce in this first few rounds.
Absolutely, and for that fight we could potentially see, if the Usyk fight doesn't end up happening, we could then potentially see Tyson Fury's next opponent in that fight. A Fury-Joyce fight, that sells out a stadium. I can't talk to you how big that fight would be.
It's a huge fight. Look, there was a 3-way face-off in December. Yeah. It was Fury, Usyk, and then Big Joe got up there, and that got a good buzz from the crowd. And I think people know. People have an understanding of who the best heavyweights in the world are. Everyone's top 5 is going to include Joe Joyce and Tyson Fury. So if that fight happens, the world stops. And there is an intrigue as to how Tyson Fury would deal with Joe Joyce's relentless punch volume, engine, and juggernautness. How would Tyson Fury deal with that? I don't know. I'd like to find out.
Tyson Fury posed this question, but what do you feel like is a tougher fight for Fury, Usyk or Joyce?
Look, I think they're both hard fights. The hardest fights out there for him are those 2 guys. I'd say Joe Joyce is, and I've got a reason for that, in that I think Tyson is too big for Alexander Usyk. That's how I would see that fight playing out. I know Usyk is a genius, a wizard, a fantastic, stunning heavyweight. It's one of the best that we've got out there, but I think Tyson is too big for him. He could weigh 50 pounds more than him. He won't weigh 50 pounds more than Joe Joyce. He won't tower over Joe Joyce. He won't be able to smother Joe Joyce. No one does that. So for me, the tougher fight, and I think Tyson said this himself, is Joe Joyce. I think Usyk is the trickier, because he might have to go looking for him, but Joe Joyce is just going to be right there, sticking it on you constantly for 12 rounds if it goes that far.
Absolutely, I'm sure I'll see you on Fight Week 4, Joyce versus Zhang, which I absolutely can't wait for. But Dev, thank you for your time, mate. I appreciate your words at the start, mate. It means a lot, Thank you, mate. It's been good to chat to you, mate. I appreciate it.
You too, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.